Again, my name is Jason Hollinger, and one of the things that I've been told in my life as a minister, just my life as a human being, is I'm loud, and so
all right, I'm deaf.
I tried out at a church one time, and it was my one excursion of trying out at a church outside of Texas, and God forgive me, but I did it, and I was trying to go to the mission field, I guess, but we tried out at this church, and we got done, and this I didn't realize this was going to happen. It was like a Sunday night. That was the moment I figured out this church didn't have elders, and then they said, all right, now we're going to open it up for questions. And I was like, okay. And so I went back up there, and one guy said, I don't have a question, I just have a comment. He said, I haven't turned my hearing aid on at all today, so we're good. And I was like, well, I hope there's other reasons as to why I might end up here. But
the reason was God wanted you to be heard.
Exactly. So, but needless to say, I didn't go to that church. It wasn't because of that comment. We just God sent us elsewhere, and so it's all good. We managed, but yeah. So it was. There was a lot of interesting things that happened that day that I won't get into with our time today. So, but anyways, yes. Back in about 2018, my friend, whose name is Jason, who is bald with a beard, and I tell people I'm not speaking of myself in the third person. He's a real person. His name is Jason Hale. Everybody thinks we're brothers. He's 5 years older than me. We were 2 years ago in Little Rock, Arkansas, and at a Jason's Deli, which is where we like to go eat. We walked in one time and said, we're here, and this girl behind the counter freaked out when we told her our name. We're like, well, we're not that Jason, so calm down. But they usually say, are y'all related? And we say, yeah, we get brothers a lot. And this young man, about 19, I've reached an age where I can say 19 is young. About 19, he said, well, I was thinking father and son, to which Jason looked at me and said, well, Dad. And so now I'm 5 years younger than my son, is the joke that we have. He has a grandkid, and it gets worse as we think about it. But in 2018, we were both living in Rockdale, Texas. I was the preacher, and he was the youth minister. And he was looking kind of the exit lane off the highway of youth ministry, wanting to go into something different, and started this thing called Street Ministries 25-4. And we began, you were talking about cooking, we began going to a local establishment, one of those kind of pay by the week, pay by the night, kind of extended living motels, and we lowered down the tailgate of the truck, had this small little grill that we bought for like $20 from Walmart, and just started cooking hamburgers and hot dogs. And that's how Street Ministries began. And just on the tailgate of a truck, and doing those things, and we actually made a contact there with somebody that we kind of looked as our boots on the ground, that she would go around to the different rooms and say, hey, because we said, they know you more than they know us. See if there's things that they need. And so then began our hygiene ministry. All these kind of things that just we were doing. We were both still working at the church at the time, and it just, kind of what we ended up kind of growing into and doing. And then in 2019, I moved from Rockdale and moved to Lufkin, because apparently I like pine trees and humidity. I lived in West Texas for a while and liked no trees and heat, and so I just exchanged one for the other. right? I like to go outside my house and my sunglasses fog up immediately. So, but it's all good. But so I moved there, and moved there actually 6 months before COVID. And so it was September of 2019. And when everybody was talking about how the world shut down, which in a lot of ways it did, Lufkin Street Ministries grew by leaps and bounds because nobody was out, and so the homeless that were being helped from time to time from people going around had nobody there. And so I just started piling things in a backpack and just went into the woods and walked through the woods. My wife did not like me calling her, hey, I'm headed into the woods. I'll call you when I get out. So I stopped doing that after a while. A few times she went with me. We had one of our guys that went to prison. And so the girlfriend was just kind of there fending for herself. And so we had a couple of times where she needed a new tarp for her tent. And anytime I go to help women, I don't go by myself. I had 16 years of youth ministry, always reminded me of, not there with the opposite sex by yourself. It's not that you don't trust yourself and you don't trust them, you just don't trust onlookers. Because people can draw their own conclusions, right? So I try to take that away, take that ammunition away from them. And so we went into the woods together to put on this tarp and just kind of grew this connection. At one point last year, because we don't see them on a regular basis. You come together on Sunday morning, and if somebody's gone, they're out of town this weekend. But there could be months that we don't see our people. And so we were walking out of a local haircut place. I know. But I do get my beard trimmed, and I do have kids. They get haircuts, and my wife gets a haircut. So, but as I was walking out, the lady that we hadn't seen for months was walking by, and it's she was out of the line of sight before I did, and I turned out and called her name, and she was like, oh, and just excited, and was like, can I give you a hug? All these kind of things, just because she was like, I was worried about you. I didn't know what happened, and so it's just a very interesting relationship that we have with the people that we serve. We have some people that, because a lot of people ask, what is it that leads people to this state? And the common misconception is because of addiction, that's where they got to where they are. And for the most part, majority of people that I've interacted with, the addiction came on after they were in the situation they're in. And so to deal with and to cope with, and because sadly some of those things are easier to get. Those things are easy to get, and you can fill up pretty quick with some things, or you can just sleep because of those things. And so so they find themselves in this situation. Some of my people, it's injury on the job, and they had no backup plan, and they didn't have a 401k, they didn't have disability, they didn't have all these kind of things in place, or they lose their identification. That's the biggest need of any person is identification. Think about what you use your identification for. Yes, if you get pulled over, ID, you go to start a bank account, identification. You go to get a job, bank account. You need a P.O. box, all these kind of things. ID. All these kind of things you need identification for. A lot of our people don't have that. And so we try to connect them with that. I got one of our guys on Social Security, tried to get another guy on it, and it would just, the lovely Social Security system was giving me fits, and so I said, man, he had the ability to get a ride. I said, just go down to the local office. If I can't do it, they can get you set up. And then they got him set up, and so then he calls me 2 days later and said, hey, I haven't got my check yet. I said, there's another thing about the process of Social Security that you need to understand, right? Those that if you know, you know, right? That's the phrase. If you know, you know. It could be 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. It could be next year. I said, but one of it's not much, but one of the things is with Social Security is you get a cost of living adjustment. It may not be much kind of deal, but you do get small increments of raises once it gets in the system. I said, but just be patient. Right? And so trying to work with that process, which I told somebody the other day, it's all experience for when I reach that point later in my life, if it's still there, right? All that kind of stuff. But any kind of benefits, I tell people now I'll know how to sign up for them when I need them, for my experiences of getting people getting people set up with what they're doing. But the mission and vision that we have adopted, as far as we have street ministry 2540 in Rockdale still, and now Lufkin Street Ministries. We began in 2021 is when we launched our nonprofit. I tell people, when everybody was shut down, what we decided to do, we decided to start a nonprofit. And we decided to launch in this. And so our mission statement is to know Jesus and to make Jesus known. That is everything we do, things that we're going to list here in a little bit, things we'll go through. Everything we do goes through that and through our vision statement of to make a lasting difference in the community around us as we seek to make disciples who live on purpose for a purpose. And really, if you have the ability to get into my mind and think the way I think, obviously the vision statement is the more expanded version of the mission statement, right? So how do we live out the mission statement, what's in the vision? And so again, this is really kind of behind everything that we do. So how do we do this? Well, this year we started 2540 Fellowship. It's essentially a church without walls. So when people ask, what's your membership like? I'm like, well, it depends who I run into. And it depends who I see, it depends who I interact with, but we go around 2540 Fellowship on Saturdays and give a meal unless I'm out of town, or just sometimes, because we are a nonprofit ministry, sometimes we don't have the food that we like to be able to do, and so we do something different. We kind of pivot through some things. I've got a guy that I've connected with over the last few years that was living down in Beaumont and doing homeless ministry, now lives up in Nac, or Nacogdoches, just north of us, and called me up a couple weeks ago and said, hey, let's feed people. I said, all right, I'm going to be gone for the next 3 weekends. So we'll do it when I get back. I said, but hey, you want to get started? Go for it. And so what we've talked about is changing our Saturday evening meal, especially kind of this time of year, to a breakfast, and kind of a late, probably 9:30, 10 o'clock, because you think about it at your house, you get up and walk a distance to the kitchen, and you get your breakfast, all these kind of things. Well, when you live in the woods, even sometimes some of them are in town earlier in the day, but they all kind of migrate towards certain areas throughout the day. And so what we'll do is we'll kind of go around to those different spots, and we'll take like breakfast burritos, sausage wraps. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But what we do, and we go around and we offer prayer. I ask 3 questions. What's something that you need? What's something that you want? And how can I pray for you? I walked up, I don't have any pictures with me this time, but I walked up to this one picnic table at a local park, and this guy turned and looked at me and he goes, "You have food, don't you?" And started laughing. I was like, "Yes, I do." And we had gone to it was a local organization did a pastor appreciation lunch. I said, "Y'all can do that, not in Pastor Appreciation Month?" And so, but they invited a bunch of us. There's a local organization called Love Inc. Love in the Name of Christ, and everybody just abbreviates it Love Inc. They call me. Sarah, my wife, used to work there. She was the connections coordinator. She traded that in. She now works for the Texas Family Care Network, or what's known as CPS, to meaning she does conservatorship. She started that back in November. But a lady named Terry took her position, and Terry texts me about 2 times a week. I'll just get this message, "Hey, Jason," and then like 3 exclamation points. And so I'll kind of stop when I get a chance and check the message. And on a weekly basis, I probably pick up donations twice a week and deliver donations 1 to 2 times a week. Right now in my cargo trailer, I have a wheelchair, some clothes, a walker, and a refrigerator. And so when people ask me if I have a storage building, I say yes. It's parked out front of my house. It's a 6x12 cargo trailer. We're the house on the street that has that and the 6x12 utility trailer sitting out front, trying not to be behind people's driveways. So they're not kind of backing into it. But and then we have in my driveway a barbecue pit on a trailer, and so we're those people on the block, and that we just that's who we are. That's what we do. And so we get things. Usually, I'll have things that maybe last about a week or 2 that I'll get them, and then I'll have somebody call and say, "Hey, do you have this?" The longest thing I've had was for about a year in my garage. I had a bicycle, and then I got a call the other day from a friend that said, "Hey, do you have a bike for an adult?" And I said, "Yes, I do. The tire's going to need some air in it because it's been sitting there for a little while." But this gentleman had gotten a job and needed the way to get to and from the job, and so they came by and picked up the bicycle, gave me my ice chest back that they had borrowed about a year ago. So we traded off with that. And but anyways, so we, in the midst of some of this too, when we go around and we find different people in different places, it helps us to help others, because again, being a nonprofit, and we help based off the help that is given us through the blessings that people give us. So one of the things, of the reasons why we're looking to move our Saturday evening to Saturday morning, is the plan is to start in a local area, a local spot, is what I meant to put right after the word local. But I'm my own spell checker later after the fact. But my wife didn't approve of all this before. She usually reads through my stuff. But she was headed up towards Paris to go pick up our youngest, who had been up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But there's one that kind of meets really kind of maybe what we consider the south area of Lufkin. North Lufkin is really kind of the low-income area of Lufkin. And our property, our building that we have, is, they say that the train track is what kind of separates those areas, but over the last few years, that area is kind of extended, right? And so a lot in our area has that. And so the idea is that we'll do this, but we'll start around 1 o'clock, because people can go to their own church, and if they want to come and volunteer with us, they can do that. And so it gives them that opportunity. And so we'll provide healthy meals. We have a local organization that I talk about, the sausage wraps that I just picked up Thursday, 5 boxes about this big of sausage. When you get into stores, it's Home Smokehouse Sausage. It's changed names in Lufkin to Double R Foods, but Lufkin is kind of the home base for it. And so they donate sausage to us. I've got a friend, a guy that's become a friend, that's a contact, and I say, hey, I'm running low on sausage. Can I come by and come get sausage? Sometimes he'll throw in pre-cooked and vacuum sealed like pulled pork and brisket in there, that if they've got it in their freezer and it's still good, but it may not be good for a while. And I tell him, well, listen, it's not going to last with me for a while. So it goes out pretty quick. We did a big feed in the park where we had brisket and pulled pork. So we did that because we received quite a bit of that. And so I think we ended up maybe buying one brisket and cooking with that, which, as you know, took a lot of our budget just to buy one brisket. And so, the cost of that is what it is. And I love barbecuing every weekend, and so I don't know what I do now, but maybe I go out of town, so that saves from the idea of doing that. But so what we do is we'll, especially kind of during the week, we'll do the sausage wraps, but we'll use the sausage with other meals. I got a bunch of like hamburgers and hot dogs and hamburger buns and hot dog buns donated, and Miss Baird's loaves of bread, probably about 8 loaves of bread with it, like the packages that you might get in bulk when, like from Sam's, there's 2 in each package. We got about 4 of those with that, and then a bunch of hamburgers and hot dogs. So last weekend we did hot dogs, and we also got a bunch of chips. We did hot dogs and chips, and I always like to throw in a cookie in there because I believe everybody deserves a cookie. And so I'll throw a cookie in there and do that. But just different things that we try to do. We do hygiene. We make specific bags for men and for women. And so just because men and women need different things when it comes to hygiene. I was early on, I was reminded really quick that y'all's razors don't match our razors. So I was like, okay, because I'm like, hey, a razor is a razor. What does it matter, And now I'll say this: not everybody gets a razor, right? And so that's kind of at that point that when I know them well enough, because we have some people who can be a little dangerous, and we have some people that might harm themselves, might harm someone else. That's just part of it, and so not everybody gets that. But so a lot of that is when we do our outreaches in the park, we'll have a trailer set up and just have items in there, and people can kind of go through and pick some things out, some things that they need. Much of this, we have an Amazon wish list that we put things on. In the past, and we're looking to get it started again, we do Celebrate Recovery, and for just those, you see AA and all this kind of things, but Celebrate Recovery covers all sorts of things, and not just alcohol, not just drug addiction. There's eating, there's just whatever it may be, just those addictions, and so it kind of helps with that. We had to pause because the guy that was doing it moved away, and so I tend to be very picky about who I get to lead certain things that we do, and so I've got a couple of phone calls of people that said, hey, where I was living, I led a Celebrate Recovery, can I come lead yours? And I always tell them, let's sit down and have lunch together one day. To which a lot of times I don't get a response back, because I tell them, I'm not just going to let you loose. I want to know what you're going to say. I'm not trying to control it or micromanage you, but that mission statement, right? Everything we do comes under that mission statement. We're starting, I was about to say this month, but we're still in June, aren't we? Yeah, we're in July. But in July, we're starting neighborhood cookouts again, kind of in our North Lufkin area. We've got a big field next to us. Where we're located is the original church building of the church that we're on the property of, Central Church of Christ, and where I was the minister at for 3 years. And we have this big field, a soccer field area, and so we'll invite people from kind of our immediate neighborhood. We have connections with people. There's an organization called Jeeping for Jesus, and they bring their Jeeps out to different stuff, and so they kind of come and looking at those. We from time to time get people with classic cars come out there. We'll have bounce houses and outdoor games and just try some family friendly stuff, because as I tell people, we're a homeless ministry and more. The homeless are not the only ones of the marginalized. Essentially is what it is. There's low income. There's single parents. We have those. We help veterans. We help those of domestic violence, and not just women, but men as well are both victims of that. And so we try to help provide those things. Obviously, if those fourth Saturdays fall on a holiday weekend, we change it. All those different kind of things. So we talked about how we do this. Well, and the bigger thing of how we do this, one of the things that people tend to tell me is tell everything about it. And so we have a monthly budget, how we seek to accomplish these things. And a lot of our monthly budget changes, not going to get into it, but according to the economy, right? And so it's based off that. A number of years ago, that number would probably be a little lower, but we have to adjust with things as they are. And so, of that breakdown, we have we say you have a benevolence ministry. Aren't you a benevolence ministry? Well, yes, but it's more than that. And so you kind of see the breakdown is really, in all actuality, if you look at based off what we have coming in, and what if we were to purchase all these kind of things, we'd probably spend around $1,000 a month. We have different organizations that we're connected to that help to provide hotel rooms from time to time. And my thing is, I tell people I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I just want to be a spoke in the wheel. And so I'm not going to try to duplicate what somebody else is already doing. The Celebrate Recovery in town, there's another one in town. When we did ours, we just did it on a different night. And we would go and try to support them, and they would come and try to support us. There's one in Nacogdoches, just like I said, just up the road, that they would do one on a different night. And so we try to all work together with that. I'm not trying to do what somebody else is already doing, and vice versa. There's a reason that I go into the woods with the homeless ministry, because nobody else in town was doing that. I said, okay, so this is what we'll do. And so then we have people that help to kind of support those things, where then came out of that the sausage contact that we had, because that's what we were doing those things. Advertisement is a part of it. That's the least thing I love, and so I like to think that I am the advertisement. But some of that, you can do almost for free with a lot of those kind of things. But there's different things, different events that we do, that we put in the paper, different stuff that we do for paid online. Continuing education, I have conversations with people on a regular basis, probably at least 2 times a month, from different people that that mentor me and that coach me and provide me that leadership. And from time to time, we go to things where they are too. I started going back in 2018 or 17. I started going to Pepperdine University. Had at that time it was called the Pepperdine Bible Lectures. It's now called Harbor. started going to it. We still go to it. The last 2 years, our oldest, Emmeline, who's now 19, has gone with me. And so we go and we stay there on campus. That's a thing that I wish that earlier on in my ministry I would have been more diligent and more wise about. In many ways, it serves as some sort of as a kind of a brief sabbatical for us, and just kind of a pause that, the ministers need to be ministered to as well. And so that's kind of part of what we do. And we've had some churches in the past that have said, "Hey, we're going to help pay to send you." And so that's how we do it. That's how we get there. Because obviously, when I was working at a church, that was a part of my the package that I had. And for the last 2 years, when I haven't been, that's been part of it. And so we've had people that have said, "We want to donate that to send you there for those things." And I guess that was so important I accidentally put it in there twice. But when I looked at my notes, I was like, "Oh, good." So our mill ministry is really our biggest thing in the midst, as far as beyond some other things that we do. You think about, my household has 5 right now because our oldest moved out in April. She lives about 10 miles down the road. But she lives in an apartment, over a garage apartment. And so we have 5, and I think it cost us more than it did with our 6. I don't know how that, we thought we should have saved money, but then what we figured out is that she didn't eat as much as the others, or she was always gone with friends. And so I was like, I don't know what we saved, but it's all good. And so we, you think about, at our household, we probably spent $300 a week, and that's for essentials, just doing that. And so you think about, $1,000 a month for what we do. We're probably coming in on the low end of that number. But some of that is offset because also we have a local food bank that will provide us with things from time to time. We don't want to budget to count on that all the time, but it is a part of the agreements and the things that we have with it. One of the things that we've looked to maybe get back to is me doing this full time. And, somebody said I was talking to somebody, they were like, "Man, that's a lot." I'm like, well, we base our numbers off living wage. The living wage of what it is. And again, you think about 3 kids at home right now, 5 people, $5,000. Again, we're probably coming in on a low number on that. That's just the reality of it. Now, I'm not the only one in my household that works. Obviously, my wife, like I said, she works. And it's just the world we live in, right? And so we're looking to kind of get back to that point, because right now I'm working, the paying job is I'm a hospice chaplain. And I'm a hospice chaplain who does homeless ministry, who's married to someone who works with CPS. I tell people, our life is a boring life. We have no stress, no drama in our life, one bit, right? But we went from 20 plus years to being able to talk about what we do, to being able to get to a point where we go, good, this is good day, or bad day, because of state laws and different things that we can't have those conversations. Different things, just we buy tents, sleeping bags, tarps. Like I said, different things that we get when they don't come in on our Amazon wish list, things that we purchase to have on hand when we do different stuff, is another big part of our budget. But like it says, big dreams, big God, right? And so you have not because you ask not. And so that's kind of where we've reached in our ministry. And definitely I said 2024 and beyond of where we want to get to. We'd love to have a food truck. because we want to go around and be able to do different things, because we've also gone and done, from time to time, disaster relief. We would love to be able to go in. A couple years ago, we were down in Lake Charles, and we spent the night down there, and we went. We actually stayed in Orange, where you had Disaster Relief Church of Christ and Church of Christ Disaster Relief, the two different organizations that kind of split off from each other and formed different ones. One was in Orange and one was in Lake Charles. We helped on one night after we had just come back the week before from Trinidad, Colorado, working and helping to kind of provide some different things with a friend that we have up there. Hurricane came through. We went down there, spent the night down there, was in Lake Charles one day, and the next morning was in Orange giving out stuff. We found these people that were at a church there in Lake Charles, and they were cooking food, and we just walked up and said, "We're here to help." And so made the biggest pot of gumbo I've ever made in my life, and it went out quicker than anyone can imagine.
They let you use the paddle?
Yes, they let me use the paddle. I got to stir and everything, and so
We were amazed. We went to Lake Charles or something, I think it was Lake Charles Insult.
Yes.
After one of the hurricanes, and when we pulled up with our trailer, the first thing people ran out and said, "Do y'all have any diapers?"
yeah,
You know, and so we sent somebody back to find diapers, you know.
Yeah.
And that was what their most concern was right then.
yeah, and that's just when you think this is what they'll need, it's not what they'll need.
No.
I have a friend who does disaster relief, and she said, "I'll get a truck that comes in, and it's just what the truck that comes in." She got a truckload of, oh goodness, what was it? My mind just went blank. She thought, surely they'll use this, but it was kind of the batter, and she was like, she quickly found out that nobody in Louisiana uses that batter. she was in the, they're like, "We don't use that." It was cornmeal. She got a truckload of cornmeal. She goes, "You know how hard it is to offload a truckload of cornmeal?" Because her provider said she's going to be in Louisiana. We'll give them something they can use. And nobody over there wanted the cornmeal. And so,
They don't make that much cornbread.
oh, exactly. You know, they were I don't know what they were thinking they were going to use it for, but no, they weren't gonna use it, and they're like, "We don't even use it. We use our own stuff." And they kind of tried to explain to her, and I don't know what she did with it. That was a couple years ago. I don't know. I told her, I said, "It's between you and God. What'd you do with all that cornmeal?" But she received pallet after pallet of cornmeal, and it was. You what?
I would have thought Louisiana.
Well, a lot of people, they were like, "Nope, that's not what we use." I think they use it, but they use something different for that kind of deal. So it was.
Certain brands don't cook right, we're gonna put it that way.
So that's probably what it was.
And everything, and then like, I don't know, the texture.
Yeah. I
And
know.
then if it's disaster relief, you're not cooking cornbread, okay?
I know. So you're like, really? I mean, come on. You know, they might be better served by diapers, right? Or cases of water would have been tremendous at that. What?
Even Vienna sausage would have been better.
Yeah. I like that. I like Vienna sausage. But also we've looking at maybe like a concessions trailer. Like I said, I have that trailer that I use. And I've talked to a friend of mine that said, "I can convert the trailer that you have into a concessions trailer." I'm like, okay, we might do that. And so he is a welder, and he's like, "And I'll do it for a great price, free of charge." And I said, "Well, I'll see if I can maybe kind of haggle down with you a little bit." But also, even the cost to put a logo on our trailer is ridiculous. But that's kind of part of what we do. And so, again, everything we do comes back to that, to know Jesus and to make Jesus known, and to make a lasting difference in the community around us. as we seek to make disciples who live on purpose for a purpose. Our guiding scripture is Matthew 25:40. That's the 25:40 in everything. The King will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for the one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And I love the way the New American Standard puts it. It says you did to me. To the extent that you did, and it says for the least of these, you did to me. And so everything we do is based off of that. Going into the woods, sitting out at a park for hours at a time, sweating like crazy, and going and picking up refrigerators and beds and medical equipment. All those things is based off of that. We got a phone. I was on the phone with, and so a lot of times I tell people, if you see me pull over on the side of the road, headed to go see people to pray for them in my hospice position, I'm having conversations with either the families of that or individuals that have reached out to us. I was headed the other day, and a family just right down the road from us in Diboll had a fire, lost nearly everything. And so I was like, can you send me a list of things that you need? And she goes, well, a friend told me to do an Amazon wish list. I said, can you send me the link to that? We'll go through what we have and we'll see what we can do. I have people that ask us for furniture. And I say, listen, I don't have furniture on a regular basis, but up the road in Knack, the Love Inc. in Knack, they have a furniture ministry. Again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I want to be a spoken word. So everything we do is based off of that. Everything we do is connected to that idea of making disciples. Now I'll tell you, not everybody we help wants prayers. We have people that just say, we'll take the hamburger, but we don't need your Jesus. And I tell them, I say, listen, what you can't stop me from doing is praying for you. I'm going to pray for you no matter what. And so that's just what we do, and that's what we run into from time to time. We run into people just getting out of prison, and it's part of it. And I was going to share it now, but I'll actually wait and share it during the sermon. Just this statement from somebody that's really they're doing on a grander level of what we're doing up in Lubbock, but the system that we have in place, in a lot of ways, sets our people up to fail. And what I tell people is, they're human beings and they're members of your community. And if you were in that situation, what would you want somebody to do for you?
Amen.
Because I'll tell you this, it is a finable offense to stand outside and hold up a sign and ask for help. You can be fined $250 to do that. We had somebody got a ticket for sitting on a corner, eating food that I had given them, not bothering anyone, and people were coming up, pulling around. They gave her a ticket because she was impeding the flow of traffic. And you set people up to fail. And what we're going to kind of get into with this quote that I'll read later is, you set them up to fail on grander levels as well, because now they have other things attached to their name. Because they can't pay them. The guy that went to prison, it started with not having a light on his bicycle. He couldn't pay that ticket, couldn't pay the probation on this and all these kind of things. And when it was all said and done, he had 7 warrants for his arrest. And because he did have a past of other things, they tacked everything on it, and he went to prison for a year. And it's just, that's the reality of those that we deal with. And so we seek to show up. So let me pray for you, and we'll we'll take a break. Father God, we thank you, God, for blessing us, God, with the ability to see and to hear the conditions of fellow human beings, of those, God, that we may not know them, but we interact with them on a daily basis. And God, give us the heart and give us the mind to look upon them with compassion, and maybe to understand, God, that we're not all going to help in the same way, but to show up in a godly way and to be Jesus to do. To the least of these, to those that as we help them, God, we're helping, as your son said, that we're helping him. And so, God, give us the understanding, the ability to see what it means to truly love our neighbor. We love you, God, and we thank you. It's in your son